Our first speaker for this morning, I think before I even introduce him, let's just all agree that there's just a factory down in the Eastern Cape just producing brilliance, okay? I'm one of them. And also, our next speaker is also one of them, Hang. This man grew up in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. He is a comedian. He is the former network BBDO art director. He's a TV host. He's an MC. He does everything, really, okay? Pay him, he'll do it, okay? He's my Twitter fave. He's just so quick with the humor. One of us is probably a meme right now already, just put it out there. So he studied art and design at MMMU. He found himself being an art director at the network BBDO. Down the line, he started writing, found his passion, and also now he's also doing stand-up comedy as well, and he's really, really good at it as well. So I think, if anything, it's important that we're going to hear his insight as to how he used his art, his comedy, to create a change. And I think it's important that you put in your speech, Donovan, tell them that the best steers in the country is Mthatha, Ultra City. Thank you. See? So please welcome Mr. Donavan Goliath. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so you can actually leave that there. It's fine. You can leave it there for now. I'll just put this on there. I'm not too sure if that... Is my slide up already? No, not yet. Can you put that slide up there, please, sir? I think it's only fair. You know, while they're busy putting the slide up, I think I deserve another massive round of applause for that. Please welcome Donovan Goliath. You know, doing presentations for me is always a weird thing, and because we do stand-up comedy and, you know, we're on stage quite a bit, time, you know, is a thing for us. I don't have too much time. I'm on the clock right now, so I'm going to try and speed through this as much as possible, but I always feel that when you do give a presentation, you know, the one thing I really hate is when people come up and they start telling us, you know, about everything they've done, but they leave out the most important thing, which for me is the most important thing, is to tell us their story. Who are you? You know, where do you actually come from? I'm a big fan of the process, and I'm a big fan of, I like to know how you got to become the person that you are, you know? So hence why this presentation is called Who the is Donovan Goliath. You guys can insert your own profanity there. I'm not saying there was a swear word, because I never do swear, right? But I needed something engaging just to get your attention so early in the morning, right? So I'm going to just kind of tell you where I'm from, and it's a story that a lot of people don't know, because now in Johannesburg, and I guess most of South Africa, people know me for what I do currently, that is stand-up comedy, you know, but I'm not just that, you know, I'm a lot more than that, and I like to push that part, you know, or that story rather, more than the whole stand-up comedy, but I just feel like it's too linear. So anyway, couple of things that I do: comedian, art director, designer, writer, actor, business owner, fine artist, rapper, yes, and swimsuit model. One of those may or may not be true, right? The swimsuit model part, very true. So you guys can guess, right? These are a couple of the things that I do, and really just titles, you know, and you'll see how a lot of them kind of fit together and have almost led to, you know, who I am and where I am today. So, just to set it up, you know, when I do comedy, I always tell people that, you know, I'm one of those limited edition colored guys. You know, like, I look white, I'm actually colored, kodwa ndingumXhosa ngaphakathi. Like, that's my vibe, right? I'm kind of like a township dog, which is a mix of everything. Half Alsatian, half Jack Russell, half zebra. You can never tell. Love township dogs because they are survivors, right? None of you have ever seen a township dog at a vet. Ha! They just have terrible PR, but those dogs are actually superhuman. Those are the real survivors out there. I'm very proud to compare myself to one, right? So, this was me growing up. I grew up in Mthatha, you know, like our MC said, I grew up in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. I looked like this kid over here, you know, and it was an interesting thing, and, you know, I didn't realize it at the time, but this story and my narrative, you know, would come back and be the basis of me writing my first 5 minutes of stand-up comedy. So, grew up in Mthatha, went to a school called Zingisa Comprehensive High School. 99.9% Xhosa school, and I was the 0.1%, right? So you can just imagine. So if you were to do an overview and a graphic representation of assembly, that little white dot in the corner, that was me, right? I was that guy. I was that guy. Because the story is always switched around. It's always the black guy who's in the white school. It's never the white-looking guy. You know what I mean? And that's the story that I ended up using, right? Because it's my truth. That's what it was, you know? And it used to confuse a lot of people. Like, I'd walk into class, you know, and people would go, yeah, madoda. Jonga sana nangu lamlungu Joe. Hey, andimkheli Joe. It was such a weird thing for people, and they couldn't really digest it. But I didn't find it strange at all. Me, I was just living. This is how I grew up, and this is where I'm from, you know? Anyway, for those who don't believe me, this was my student card at Zingisa, because people never ever believed me when I said I went to Zingisa. We had to carry that everywhere. And you know, the word comprehensive is an interesting one for me to describe schools, because you know that it's not a private school if there's the word comprehensive in it, right? You know that at some point there was a struggle that you had to go through. At some point, like a tar road ends, you know, and you're going to have to carry a duster cloth in your back pocket to clean your shoes, right? That's it. One word, comprehensive, will tell you everything you need to know about your upbringing and where you came from and how you were educated. Alas, growing up, I realized I was a very weird kid, you know? By weird, I mean I wasn't really into and interested in things that all the other kids were into. I could draw. I was into creativity, and my imagination used to run wild. The unfortunate thing is, coming from a small town, we don't have a lot of, what do you call them? You know, people to encourage you, to motivate and help develop creativity, which has always been my thing, and something that I fight for to this day, is that, you know, creativity in small towns or anything that isn't, you know, top of mind as a job title, you know, never gets nurtured. So there are a lot of talented people out there, I believe, in many different fields who've just never ever gotten the opportunity to express who they truly are, based on peer pressure, based on pressure from parents. Because parents also, you can't blame them because they don't understand. You know, we're also in a generation where the people who look after us and the people who try and support us and fund us have never been given these opportunities. Opportunities were very limited. So you've got all of these talented kids who grow up with something that they will never, ever, ever get to express. And that's my biggest fight right now. And I put this image up, you know, this is like 5 years old, 6 years old, or whatever it is. I used to like drawing cars, but it could never just be a car, you know? What are the possibilities of a car? Can we add guns to a car just in case we're in a fight? How many guns can we add? You know, spikes on the tires. And why this image means a lot to me is because, and this is another reason why I'm a big fan of children, because children have no filter. Children don't look at something and kind of edit it before they actually put it out. They just let their imagination run wild and go, well, I mean, just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean that it's not possible, you know? That's why I really love how children think, and my biggest challenge for me right now actually is to try and go back and start thinking like a kid again, you know, and just really just open my mind up, you know, to ideas and opportunities and just really play on imagination as much as I can. So, I used to draw, and because of where I'm from, very much inspired by these head-cut posters, right? I used to see these, and why I used to like these head-cut posters is because I think for me at the time, it was the basis of communication for me. You know, these posters are so powerful because you go in there, you don't have to talk to the person who's cutting your hair. You just need to point at this thing here, and you will walk out looking like that. Isn't that amazing? You know, that somebody can just draw a picture of, I mean, and they look very naive and childish, which I really love. There's an innocence to them. But you walk out and you look exactly like that, right? So these were part of my influences and the things that, you know, would kind of lead to me getting into design, and, you know, couldn't really explain or chat to my parents about this because they'd go, what are you talking about? This means nothing. There's no way you can use this, right? Very curious kid. So I was into that kind of thing. Then, when I was about 15, my curiosity started bubbling up again, and I started becoming very much inspired by rap music. Rap music was a big thing for me, and I think it was the storytelling in rap music which I really loved. The ability, you know, to take a complex subject and, you know, translate it into a song with a beat behind it and still make it rhyme. There were just so many layers to it, and I was just so blown away that somebody could tell a story using music. So, naturally, what happened? I put my pens and pencils down, and I became a rapper, right? This was the first poster I designed myself for our group Outbreak, right? That was me on the side. My name was Acid Rain, of course. My cousin was called That Dog. And not just any dog, that dog. That was his name, right? You guys must be aware of this. And then in the middle was a good friend of ours, still a good friend to this day. He was called Peeps the Villain, a friend of mine from Mozambique. And we decided we're going to be the next big thing. Believed that we were the next big thing. The only rappers in Mthatha at the time, right? And we would go everywhere and perform at a lot of like the Mr. and Miss Mthatha pageants. You know, we were the go-to guys in terms of entertainment. And in my mind, I was like, well, this is it then. You know, I better start practicing my autograph. You know, I'm going to become incredibly famous. This is happening. Which was such a powerful thing for me because, once again, no filter. You know, also no access to the outside world and no influence from anybody telling me I can't do it, right? So no social media at the time to see what other rappers were doing in Joburg, Durban, Cape Town, in the big cities that would, you know, obviously have worked on me quite a bit and, you know, put me in a little bit of an anxious state and go, okay, no, I really can't compete because we weren't amazing. I will be honest with you. We were okay, but we were not amazing. But I absolutely believed, and so did everybody else because I believed. Then, you know, the rapping thing, because Miguel was a little bit older, he left to go and study, and I was left behind. You know, myself and my cousin Devandre over there, we were left behind. And my Catholic priest at the time knew that I could draw. And he came up to me one day, he came to our house, and he said, listen, there are a couple of parishes that I'm operating in, one of them being in Qunu. There's a church in Qunu, and we've just renovated it, but I feel like it needs some artwork. Would you mind painting something for me? So I'm like, yeah, well, I've never really painted before. I'm sure I can, right? Then he goes, oh, it needs to be an oil painting, and it needs to be kind of realistic. So I'm like, no. I don't know if you've seen the cars that I draw. I don't know if I'm your guy, you know. And he goes, no, I believe in you. And to this day, we're still very good friends. Father Fisher, he's based in Marion Hill, Catholic priest. We're very good friends. He's Swiss, old man now. And he said, no, there's something about you. I believe in you. You can do this. So I go, fine, I'll do it. In my mind, I'm thinking, it's a small painting like this, nah, we'll be okay. This guy rocks up with a bakkie at my house. I'm like, why is he coming with a bakkie all of a sudden? And there is a masonite board about 2.5 meters by 1.5 meters big and a bag full of paint. And he goes, this is what I need. He gives me a reference image and he goes, make it your own. Then I looked at this man. I was like, Father, listen, I don't know. I still don't know. But he said to me, don't worry, you can do this. You know, I'll give you time. And I did my first painting. And, well, this was the result. I'll show you if you can see. You know, there isn't too much detail here, but, I mean, if you can see, you know, the one on the right, or this one on this side, actually, is in Qunu at the moment, still to this day. I painted this when I was about 19 years old. I'm 36 now. 19 years old, I painted this, and it's still there in Qunu, if the church is still there. Thank you. And then the one on the right-hand side is also still at the church. If you go to Marion Hill to the retreat house, you can find that painting in the church. And I ended up doing about 16 of these, you know, over like 3 years. So I would go to Marion Hill over the December period for like 2 weeks and just spend time at the retreat house painting, you know. It was the one place. And to this day, if somebody asks me, have you ever been in a state of flow where you're just connecting, you know, either with writing or with painting, it's when I did these, you know, because there was no there was electricity, but no TV, no outside influences. It's you and this board, and that's all you do. You're in the forest, you must just paint, you know. I look at this now, and I go, what a challenge. One, for something I've never done, but what I appreciated was, even though he knew I'd never painted before, he was like, I understand your resilience and what you're about. And I know that you will want to take this on. That curiosity thing again, and I don't give myself enough credit for that, you know, for going, you know, I'm the kind of personality, and I realize it now, where if you say to me, we need somebody to start designing chairs, and we like your eye, would you like to do it? I'll go, yeah, cool, give me a month, let me research what it takes to design a chair, and I'll get back to you with some designs, you know? It's that weird, it's not a confidence thing. but it's just a belief thing, because inside we all have that little voice. There's that voice that we push down every single day. You try and mute it, that goes, you know that you can do this thing. Like, you know very well that you are capable of doing this thing, but then you're like, but does it live up to the standards of what society thinks and what everybody else thinks? Maybe not. I'll leave it up to the professional to do it. Then when the professional does it, you go, man, I can do this thing with my eyes closed. It happens often. I look at these paintings now, and I even doubt myself at my age, and I go, I would never be able to do this. If somebody had to give this to me now, at this age, technically with the experience that I have, I would struggle to do this because of influence, and what people have told me and what the world has told us, what we can and cannot do. Anyway, I'll move on very, very quickly. I ended up getting a job in advertising, and the way it worked, I studied art and design in PEP Technikon. And I got a job in advertising, which is weird for me because I've never really done a CV. I just sent a portfolio of work through, to somebody I knew who was working there. And the next day I got a call to go, hey, you sound quite interesting. Would you like to come and work here? Then I was like, yo, Nkosiam, I didn't think that you guys were going to reply because I'm still studying. I can't, I'm still doing my 4th year. Then they were like, no, we really like your stuff and the way you think. Your name is Donovan David Goliath. You're from Mthatha. You speak Xhosa. Like, there's a thing here. There's like a lot happening, and we almost don't believe you. Like, is this made up? So like, no, it's all true. They gave me the job, right? And then I finished my degree and then jumped on a bus, came to Joburg for the first time ever, right, to work in advertising. Never been here before. But I think about it now when I put this presentation together, and I go, it's that thing once again, a completely new challenge. Somebody throws it at me. Other people would have gone, yay, I need my comfort zone. There's no way I can jump into this. But I'm like, yo, what life is about, right? You're only going to find out what really happens at the end of the tunnel if you actually jump straight into the tunnel. You'll never know. You can't assume what's on the other side. Anyway, got a job in advertising. I'm not even going to talk about this, just a couple of things, my style that developed eventually from that. And while working in advertising, that thing started bubbling again where I was like, yeah, I like it, but I also don't like being told what to do. I don't like the nature and the structure of a 9-to-5. Please, I'm not discouraging anybody here to freelance and do any of those things, right? Or encouraging, rather. Don't leave your job, right? don't leave your job. And I just started feeling a little bit like I needed something different. I went to watch my first stand-up comedy show in 2011. Never watched stand-up comedy before, never been interested in stand-up comedy before at all. Watched this show, guy, tall as Mo, who was performing, and I watched this guy telling stories about his life, and I was blown away, that somebody could just tell a story about his life and grip a group of people like this and make them laugh. And then something clicked in me where I was like, I could leave my job and actually own my ideas, because working for a 9-to-5 and coming up with ideas that I was giving to other people to do whatever they want to and getting paid a fixed salary for churning out all of this, I was like, no, man, I want to be in control of my ideas and really mold it to where I want to be. So I resigned, and I was like, yes, I resigned. I was like, let me take a chance, because I know I'm good, and I know that I've got a good story. And not good, I'm not being arrogant here. I just really believe that my story is good enough and I can tell it. The first 5-minute set I ever wrote was pretty much everything I spoke about right now. I spoke about coming from Mthatha, growing up looking like a white kid, people teasing and trying to find out and people curious, and me just going, whatevs, man. That was my first set, and it worked. And they kept booking me, and they kept booking me. It just kept working, because I was just telling my truth. That's all I was doing. I wasn't fabricating anything, and it resonated with people because it was, oh, this is weird, this is different. I stuck to it as much as possible. Very fortunate enough to meet these gentlemen who are now my business partners, Goliath and Goliath, right? Just to set the record straight, we're not related at all. We're not brothers. For those that think we're not brothers at all, we just happen to have the same surname. Fate. That's all it is, really. It was just really fate. We met on stage. So Jason and Nicholas are cousins. Met these guys, and my life then took a different journey, and we started that same process all over again. Now I was in comedy all of a sudden, because we were like, how do we break out in this game? What is the one thing that nobody's doing? And the one thing we realized is that nobody's packaging comedy and creating a business out of it. especially 3 young guys, and we felt that we have an interesting story to tell. I'm from Mthatha, I worked in advertising, we're not related. Jason was in a lot of ads that I happened to, pitch on. There were all of these layers, and that really got the momentum going, and it got us going. And, I took out a couple of slides because I don't have time, but we officially created the brand Goliath and Goliath at a car wash. Jason and I went. I designed the logo, and I was like, how do we put this out there so that people really notice us? Because we don't actually have money. The last bit of money we had, we printed, I think, 20 T-shirts or whatever it is, and we wanted to brand it the way rappers brand their stuff. Merchandise. Nobody was doing merchandise in comedy. Let's do merchandise. Let me tell you, people laughed at us for putting our name on a T-shirt. Who are these guys? And by people, I mean our peers, the same people that we perform with who laugh and then they go behind our backs. They laughed and they laughed and they laughed. We could have given up. We didn't give up. We stuck to it. Till 6 months in, those same people came back to us and said, listen, man, you don't have to pay me my full amount, but can you give me a T-shirt? Can I wear it? And they ended up advertising our business, which then, for us sticking through it, led us to opening our first comedy club in Melrose Arch. And we'd been running, at one point we were running 8 gigs a week in and around Johannesburg, 8 gigs, some not facilitated by us, just people we trusted. And because we were running so many gigs, we had become the go-to guys now, who put gigs together, just the go-to guys. And that's when the offer for Melrose Arch came in, the space became available. We were the names that came. We were top of mind. They said, here's the space. Jason called. He said, hey, the space became available in Melrose Arch. I was like, oh, we are not Melrose Arch spec. just so you know, there's no way we can do it. But I trust Jason with all my heart, And the one thing I've always loved about Jason as a business partner and as a friend, he dives straight in, and he swims hard, and he's going to grab you, and he's not going to leave you behind. So I trusted him wholeheartedly. Fortunate enough to have Trevor come down, and he called us. He said, I'm coming down to do a massive show in Joburg. Can I come and practice at your club? This guy rocked up. The audience didn't even know that he was coming. He jumped on stage and did 2.5 hours at our comedy club, just nje practicing. Huge deal for us, But then my curiosity was kicking in again, where I was like, comedy is great, but I'm not just one thing. I can't be a linear person. What else can I do, So I ended up taking on mobile photography. I started shooting with my cell phone. I wanted to give myself that challenge, because I'm not a photographer, but I'm a visual person, and I'm still a creative at the end of the day. So then I just, would record my travels, and I would really start pulling from what actually inspires and makes me. Because I don't have time to paint, I don't have time to draw, I don't have time to do all of these other things, but I always have a cell phone on me. So I have no excuse. And because I have a cell phone, that doesn't mean that what I put out has to be substandard. How do I force myself to use a cell phone to create really great images? And I went on. I started doing mobile photography just for fun. This is not for any remuneration at all. Just for fun, to fulfill a void, Just another image on the side there. And I don't know if we have time to show this video, but very quickly, do we have time? Okay, very quickly, I'm summing this up as quick as I can. And while all of this was happening, I started missing the advertising thing again. There's something about working in advertising and collaborating with brands that, if you're able to kind of lock an idea and sell it to a person and go, this is how much it's gonna cost. And that person goes, fine, we'll hand it over to you. There's a weird trust and a weird thing that happens when you're able to do that. So myself and fellow comedian Loyiso Madinga, let me tell you a quick story about this. We got approached by a brand. We started making a name and a face for ourselves in comedy. And they said, we want you to work on this thing, we want you to sell this car. Just do that funny thing that you guys do. Pardon? So I go, I don't think you understand how difficult this thing is. This is an art. We spend a lot of time doing it, and for you to disrespect it like that, really cuts us in our soul. Take all your money, which was amazing, and leave. So we looked at the thing differently. I said to Loyiso 2 days later, I said, listen, man, let's approach this thing differently. We're so linear. We're always listening to what people say. We always follow the brief. It's always, somebody's creating rules that we just follow. Let's change the rules. Let's rewrite the brief, solve the brief, and sell our idea on what this should be back to the client. He was like, are you crazy? We did it. We ended up shooting 8 TV ads, right? That we directed, we co-edited, we did all of these things, we acted in, we wrote all of these things. This is just one of them, right? Just to give you an example of what we thought would be right. If you can play it there for me, please.
Then we buy 3 of them now, we want to buy more at the end of the month.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What? Who's doing this? Boy, what's wrong?
Debit orders. So the theme was really about being an adult, essentially. And because of the generation that we're in now, we wanted to create spots that appeal to people because they're now on their phones, you know, not for TV. How do we make something quick? How do we make something that, you know, will cut straight through, that's going to get retweeted? We're really trying to think about things differently, you know. And to start wrapping it up now, at this point where I'm at right now, you know, this is my mantra by Jim Carrey. You guys may or may not know him. But if any of you here are struggling to find your purpose and what to actually do in life, because every single person has a purpose, and no 2 purposes are the same, right? Ask yourself this question: what do they need that your talent can provide? It's a very simple question, but very difficult to answer. What do they need that your talent can provide? Don't be fooled by big things. Don't think that you need to give out, I don't know, 10,000 rands worth of, you know, matric dance dresses. It's not in your scope. You can't afford it. But there's something that you can do that's going to switch somebody's life right now, you know? Also, I discovered this word, and I push this word as much as I can. It's a word called multi-potentialite. You all know the saying, jack of all trades. I hate that saying because there's a negative connotation to it. Jack of all trades, master of none. It's rubbish. Society wants us to believe that we must only be good at one thing, right? If you start calling yourself a multi-potentialite, that is somebody who has major potential in a lot of different things, changes the way you think about it. It really changes the way you think about it completely, because you're human. You have multiple interests. Just because you're a banker, it doesn't mean you don't like knitting. Honestly, who makes the rules other than you? Ma'am, I don't know if you're a banker, but I see you knitting over there. There we go. Who makes the rules? You make the rules. You decide what's good for you. It's not about anybody else, right? So the way I look at the world now, I'm going to come back to this graph, right? The black circle now for me really just represents opportunity. And I'm just the white dot. There's so many things I still need to do and conquer in this world. And with that, I say thank you very much. You guys have been great.
Choose to make a positive impact. LeadSA.